If you watch horror and circus thriller movies, you've seen plenty of scenes that are disturbing and creepy. They study your mind carefully, building tension, and eventually bring those nightmares right to your screen. But the difference here is that we're not talking about fake makeup or staged actors. In this video, you'll meet the top 15 creepiest circus performers ever recorded in history. These are real people whose appearances and acts terrified audiences long before any movie ever existed. So get ready, because their stories are chilling, horrible, and far stranger than anything Hollywood could create. Number 15. Ronnie and Donnie Gallion. Rumors around Dayton in the early 1950s tell of nurses pausing mid-shift the moment two newborn boys arrived, fused at the sternum and lower abdomen, a bond no surgeon of the era dared challenge. Ronnie and Donnie Gallion spent their first years in hospitals before their parents, struggling with a large family, turned to the traveling carnival circuit, where the twins, still barely school-aged, became a dependable source of income. Long highways, cramped trailers, and curious crowds shaped their routine as they performed across the United States, Canada, and Latin America. Despite the grind, the brothers carved out small rituals that made life feel normal, from joking arguments during breakfast to sharing the responsibilities of grooming and navigating their custom wheelchair. They retired in the early 90s and settled in a specially modified home built from their earnings. Their remarkable 68-year lifespan, unmatched among male conjoined twins, remains one of the most extraordinary medical stories ever recorded. Number 14. Harry and Daisy Earles. A stray Hollywood memo from the early 1930s mentions a small figure striding across the MGM lot with a confidence that startled full-sized actors, and that was Harry Earles. German-born, ambitious, and already seasoned from years under circus tents. His sister Daisy often walked beside him, matching his pace with the same sharp poise that made audiences lean forward whenever she stepped into the light. Long before cinema found them, the siblings worked the Ringling Brothers circuit as part of the Doll family, a tight unit of little-person performers who blended acrobatics, comedy, and carefully choreographed charm. What made Harry and Daisy stand out wasn't just stature, but their calculated precision on stage. Harry could switch from playful to menacing in a heartbeat, while Daisy carried a sweetness that played well against his intensity. When Todd Browning cast them in Freaks, 1932, they slipped into their roles with unsettling ease, leaving a legacy more haunting than anything the circus had ever framed around them. Number 13. Jean-Jacques and Jacques Libera. Midnight posters once billed him simply as the double-bodied man, but the real life of Jean-Jacques Libera began in Rome in 1884 when he was born with a parasitic twin, Jacques, protruding from his abdomen. Jacques reportedly possessed 2 small arms, 2 legs, and a partially formed head embedded within Jean's torso, a configuration later described in show pamphlets and X-ray reports as having a head circumference of roughly 6 inches. Traded from hospital curiosity into the carnival circuit, Jean toured Europe and North America with Dreamland and other sideshows, carried on stage under tailored coats that sometimes hid the tiny twin, marketed with sensational posters blurring fact and fiction. Off-stage, he married and fathered 4 children, kept his family life private, and eventually retired to Italy, where records place his death in the mid-1930s. Historians note that while some details are exaggerated, Libera's case remains a documented example of a parasitic twin in early 20th century spectacle. Number 12. Laloo. An 1874 birth in the Oudh region of India set Laloo on a path that few in the world could ever imagine, as he carried a parasitic twin attached to his chest with fully formed legs, arms, and even its own urinary system. Laloo often explained that he could feel touches to the twin's limbs, and because it could urinate, he routinely diapered it like an infant, an unsettling detail that showmen eagerly emphasized. Promoters leaned into sensationalism by dressing the twin in feminine clothing and advertising it as his sister, despite it being biologically male. Yet Laloo himself pushed against the demeaning tone of the industry, joining other performers in demanding to be labeled prodigies rather than freaks. Circus banners portrayed him as the handsome, healthy, happy Hindu, a crafted image that blended exoticism with shock value. While touring with the Norris and Rowe Circus, his life ended abruptly in a train wreck in Mexico, closing one of sideshow history's most unusual careers. Number 11. Betty Broadbent. A stray rumor from old circus workers claims that the first time Betty Broadbent walked into the Ringling dressing tent, someone dropped a makeup brush because they'd never seen a newcomer so casually decorated with saints, sailors, banners, and faces that seemed to move with every breath she took. Born in 1909 and raised around Philadelphia and New Jersey, she grew up fascinated by tattoo culture long before most Americans even understood it, and by her teens, she had already begun collecting work from legendary artists whose needles shaped the vivid map across her skin. Crowds didn't just stare, they tried to decode her, pointing at designs as if they were clues to some private mythology. Despite being advertised as a curiosity, she operated with calm self-assurance, choosing her artwork deliberately and treating each piece as a permanent decision rather than a gimmick for the midway. Number 10. Andy Brisky. Backstage accounts from old fairground crews mention how Andy Brisky used to test the air before a show by flicking a droplet of fuel from his thumb and watching how fast it evaporated, as if the weather itself were part of the act he intended to dominate. His career took shape in the rougher corners of traveling circuses, the kind of places where the audience pressed so close you could hear them swallow whenever he lifted a flaming torch. Brisky didn't limit himself to the usual routines. He pushed heat far past comfort, letting fire curl along his tongue, threading it across his teeth, and holding it in his breath until the edges of his mustache threatened to crisp. Fellow performers recalled him practicing alone at dusk, building up tolerance through tiny controlled burns, muttering about timing and airflow as though he were conducting a science experiment. Number 9. Francis Bobo Dugen, Rubber Boy. Visitors to the carnival whispered that Bobo Dugen could twist and bend in ways that made you question the laws of human flesh. One poster claimed he could fold himself into a box small enough to hide behind a curtain, and on stage, he nearly lived up to the hype. Born in the early 1900s, Dugen's skin and connective tissue were extraordinarily elastic, allowing him to contort and stretch body parts in uncanny ways while maintaining control that seemed almost supernatural. Fellow performers recall him draping his arms across his shoulders or elongating his neck to peer over the crowd, testing both his limits and theirs. He combined deliberate precision with playful theatrics, drawing reactions ranging from awe to nervous laughter. After years of touring with sideshows across the Midwest and East Coast, he retired quietly, leaving behind stories whispered by generations of spectators who still wondered whether what they saw was human or something else entirely. And now it's time for number 8. Lazarus Colorado and Twin. A shadow from the 17th century freak show circuit, Lazarus Colorado was born in Genoa in 1617 with his parasitic twin, Johannes Baptista, protruding from his chest, a curious appendage that seemed to hang, quiet and still, as Lazarus carried on with an almost courtly air. According to contemporary anatomists, Johannes never spoke, kept his eyes shut, and his mouth hung open, yet he could twitch his lips, ears, and arms if prodded, an eerie sign of faint responsiveness. Lazarus toured Europe for years, visiting cities like Basel and Copenhagen, even performing before royalty, all while discreetly covering his brother with his cloak when they weren't on display. Later in life, reports claim Lazarus married and fathered children, living a relatively conventional existence despite his extraordinary burden. One dramatic tale whispered in old records says he once killed a man who mocked Joanne's and escaped execution only because executing Lazarus would have meant killing his innocent twin, too. Number 7. Sarah Baartman. In the dusty streets of early 19th century London, a ship's manifest quietly listed Sarah Baartman, Hottentot Venus, a young Khoikhoi woman whose body would soon become a spectacle for Europe's curious elite born around 1789 in the eastern Cape of South Africa. Baartman was taken to England under promises of wealth and opportunity, only to be exhibited in theaters and private shows where audiences were invited to gawk at her large buttocks and other physical features deemed exotic. Later, she traveled to Paris, performing in cages and on stage, dressed in scanty garments, while doctors and aristocrats measured and sketched her for scientific study. Despite the dehumanizing exhibition, letters suggest Baartman attempted to assert herself quietly, refusing certain performances and demanding minimal respect where possible. She died in 1815 at around 26, but her story did not end. Her body was dissected, displayed in France for decades, and only returned to South Africa in 2002 for a proper burial. A haunting reminder of colonial exploitation intersecting with sideshow fascination. Number 6. Alberta Caris. In a small Hungarian village in 1872, neighbors reportedly joked that the Caris twins could switch genders faster than the seasons changed, though few realized the truth. Alberta was born with ambiguous sexual characteristics that defied easy classification. As word spread, traveling circuses and sideshows eagerly offered contracts, drawn to the novelty that challenged audiences' understanding of man and woman on stage. Caris blended masculine and feminine attire with precision, flipping hats, skirts, and jackets mid-performance to accentuate duality, leaving spectators both captivated and unsettled. Off-stage, the twins cultivated a private world of study and correspondence, engaging with physicians and fellow performers about anatomy, identity, and societal perception. Tours across Germany, Austria, and France allowed them to earn a living while subtly controlling how their bodies were viewed. Number 5. Grady Styles, Lobster Boy. Grady Styles' mother recalled how his infant hands resembled crustacean claws, a rare deformity called ectrodactyly, long before anyone considered turning him into a performer. Growing up in rural Pennsylvania, he learned to manipulate objects with surprising dexterity, gripping knives, combs, and even small tools in ways that seemed impossible. By adolescence, sideshow recruiters spotted him, but Styles insisted on controlling how his hands were presented, experimenting with angles and lighting that made his claws appear more grotesque or threatening. Friends later described him as meticulous, yet unpredictable, sometimes practicing contortions alone for hours while humming odd tunes. Legal troubles and violent episodes punctuated his adult life, culminating in a fatal attack at home in 1992. Oddly, one of the last things reported about him was his fascination with chess. Despite his claws, he played quickly, sliding pawns with careful precision, a strange calm at the edge of chaos. Let's move on. Number 4. Tim Cridland. A crackling hush would fall over any venue the moment Tim Cridland, better known as Zamora the Torture King, took the stage, because no one quite believed a human body could endure what he put his through. Growing up in Pullman, Washington, he taught himself fire eating at 17 after tracking down real performers who could guide him safely. By the early 1990s, he joined the Jim Rose Circus sideshow and turned his act into something legendary, piercing his skin with deep skewers, swallowing swords, walking barefoot on blades, submitting himself to electric shocks, and even using self-hypnosis to regulate pain. He later co-wrote Circus of the Scars, a memoir cum history of their troupe, and continued to perform into adulthood as a fixture in Las Vegas freak-style shows. Audiences left both thrilled and unnerved by the way he turned his own flesh into a canvas of endurance and story. Number 3. Black Scorpion, Jason Black. Jason Black, better known on stage as Black Scorpion, is a modern sideshow performer born with ectrodactyly, a genetic condition that gives him claw-like hands and three-toed feet. Raised in Austin, Texas, he found his way into the carnival world in the 2000s, joining the 999 Eyes Freak Show and eventually becoming a fixture in Coney Island's Sideshows by the Seashore. His act is surreal and introspective. Wearing his signature multicolored bandit mask and shoes, he crafts a deeply personal performance that celebrates his claws not just as a disability, but as an expression of identity. Beyond performing, Black Scorpion has become a thoughtful voice in the sideshow world, talking openly about how the label freak can be reclaimed. Number 2. Schlitzy. In the bustling sideshow circuits of the 1920s and 1930s, Schlitzy, a performer with microcephaly, captivated audiences with a combination of childlike energy and unsettling appearance. Born around 1901 in the United States, Schlitzy was extremely small, with a disproportionately large head, wide eyes, and a vivacious personality that belied his physical differences. Often dressed in oversized dresses regardless of gender, he performed in vaudeville acts, circuses, and eventually in Todd Browning's 1932 cult classic Freaks, where his unfiltered expressions and unpredictable movements left lasting impressions on viewers. Despite the chaotic world around him, Schlitzy reportedly had a gentle temperament and delighted in music, clapping along and mimicking rhythms during shows. He spent much of his life in the care of traveling show managers and relatives, navigating a life that oscillated between spectacle and domestic routine. Number 1. Lucio and Simplicio Godino. In the Philippines at the turn of the 20th century, Lucio and Simplicio Godino were born joined at the chest, a condition that would chart an extraordinary path through the world of entertainment from childhood. The twins' unusual anatomy drew attention from traveling showmen who introduced them to sideshow life in Manila before they eventually toured abroad. Unlike many performers of the era, the Godinos maintained a remarkable level of coordination and independence despite their shared body, executing daily tasks and stage routines with precision that astonished audiences. Their act often emphasized synchronized gestures and acrobatic movements, demonstrating both the challenges and the unique possibilities of conjoined life. Historical accounts suggest they were treated with a mixture of curiosity and admiration. Performing across Southeast Asia and later in European exhibitions, the world of circus and sideshow performers reveals a history both mesmerizing and unsettling, where human uniqueness became spectacle. Tattooed ladies, clawed men, fire eaters, and conjoined twins walked stages, thrilled crowds, and defied expectations. Their stories shock, amuse, and haunt, a strange gallery of lives lived at the edge of possibility. If you loved exploring the strangest, creepiest circus performers in history, don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe for more bizarre, fascinating stories from the past. Turn on notifications so you never miss a spine-chilling tale, and thanks for watching. Your support keeps the curiosities coming.